tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning, I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche, done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tie. I'll live, I'll die, for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible. To be invincible, we'll be
Mota di tabanaka si, cheers and good morning on this beautiful Sunday morning. We got some English football over in London, so you know what that means.
Mr. Geezer, put cans in the freezer. And Robinson. And Robinson. Have a breezer.
Okay. We don't do that.
Why can't you do that?
No.
Get a couple of cans, put them in the freezer. Shirley and Lisa, we're gonna have a pizza. Do you know Rita? You don't know Rita? We're gonna have a pizza. Oi, oi.
Okay.
Fantastic. Okay. Boom, I've got all the letters, Susie. Blood clot. Fantastic. So what do I win, eh?
Blood clot. All right, well, we're starting off. I'm going right into the Fantasy Football Advice Network chat Q&A. So just shout out to fantasyfootballadvice.network. If you're not already signed up, go sign up today. They got a bunch of cool stuff over there. First question of the day: Jordan Addison or Michael Thomas in a full PPR? I'm going with the buckshot upside of Addison in the potentially high-scoring Kansas City matchup. That New Orleans matchup looks very gross to me, so I'm actively avoiding as many of those fantasy assets as I can, assuming that I have like adequate options to replace them with. So Jordan Addison to me would definitely be one of those adequate options where the upside definitely is higher than the potential of the floor of Michael Thomas right now, especially with Derek Carr under center. If it was Jameis Winston, I might feel a little bit differently in a different matchup, but man, that Patriots matchup is absolutely killer. Would you play Kupp and Puka or Kupp and Thielen? That's a tough one. So basically, it's if you already have Kupp in your lineup because if Kupp's back and you've held on to him, you're just shoving him in there because you don't want to be the guy that left him on the bench and watched him go off. So Puka or Thielen, basically. I'm going to assume again that this is full PPR. And Thielen, the problem with Thielen is that Bryce Young is back under center. If it was Andy Dalton, if I knew for sure that Andy Dalton was starting today, I would go with Thielen, but that Lions matchup is tough. It's probably going to be Bryce Young. I think I'm doubling up and I'm rolling with Puka and Cooper Kupp. So basically in that situation, Puka over Thielen. Skip this question. Set my lineup. You set your own lineup. That's always a silly question to ask someone. Like, I get it. Like you said, you want like the most optimal lineup, but sending just a screenshot of your roster and being like, set my lineup. It's like, you didn't tell me the scoring or any of the other settings for the league, what place you're in, who are you facing? Are you facing like the 4-0 team or are you facing the 0-4 team? Because it's very different types of play. If I'm playing the 0-4 team and I know that they're going to struggle to make 90 points, I'm going to choose safer options. Maybe I might not go for all pot shots in my lineup. But if I'm facing the 4-0 team, definitely I'm taking all flyers for the most part, because it's like, yeah, they might hit 0, but they could hit 20, 30 each, and I end up stealing that matchup. Oh, here we go. A nice defensive question. Indy defense or Bengals defense? So Indy playing the Titans, Bengals playing the Cardinals. For me, that's easily Indianapolis. Besides the fact that the defense has just been performing better, Ryan Tannehill has imploded in certain games. Not too sure what's going on with him. I could see this being a bad Ryan Tannehill game, more so than I could see the Cardinals just getting wiped out at home, because they've been surprisingly good. I'm rolling with the Colts defense in that situation. Ooh, here we go. Alexander Mattison or George Pickens in a full PPR league. So in this situation, probably just gonna roll with Madison, close my eyes, and hope he falls into the end zone. I would have felt better about George Pickens, honestly, if Mitchell Trubisky was playing, and that's gross to say. It just feels like there's no out for this team and for this offense. And now they're saying, like, well, if Matt Canada has another bad offensive performance this week, maybe we'll fire him. It's like, until they fire this man and go back to a power offense, this team has no chance, no future. They're trying to run like this silly spread out shotgun scheme that was designed for late stage Ben Roethlisberger, or, you know, just like any like late stage veteran quarterback, where it's a lot of dink and dunk shit, and then you take a couple pot shots downfield, and it's badly designed and conceived for a young team and roster like who we currently have, especially a quarterback like Pickett. I might end up being wrong, but I'm probably going with the floor play of Madison there. Oh my God. This is how bad Najee Harris has been. And this, again, makes me so sad, because Najee Harris was my slam dunk of the year.
Do you want to see me dunk?
Sure.
Yeah? Okay. Are you guys ready? I'm okay. No, don't worry.
Does that always happen?
So the question here is, desperate at running back, should I drop Cam Akers to pick up Matt Breida since Barkley is doubtful, or do I keep Akers and play him with Najee? So this is one of those situations where, despite how bad Najee Harris has been all year and how bad the Steelers offense has been all year, and how sadly I honestly don't really even project it to get that much better under Matt Canada, this is the situation where, yeah, above Cam Akers and Breida, I'm playing Najee 100% of the time. Like, there's virtually no upside, I feel like, for Cam Akers, who is going to be still splitting touches behind Alexander Mattison. I don't think the Chiefs matchup is the one where he suddenly takes over. That would kind of surprise me. So I think I don't know. Now, if you're desperate at running back, I don't know that you should drop Akers, because I like him as a season-long hold. So if you have a scrub wide receiver doing little to nothing on your bench, so if you have a Jalen Hyatt, for example, that's an immediate drop. Even someone like a Marvin Mims, who has a lot of potential and upside, if you're good at wide receiver, I would drop him to be able to manage my running back situation. Even someone who I liked as in Josh Downs, Tank Dell's probably the one where that's the cutoff for me, and that's the hold. So I think, God, Akers, Breida, and Najee. That's how gross it's been for Najee. It makes me so sad. But I'm going with Breida over Akers this week. Trying to hold Akers. If you have to drop him, I get it. But I'd be looking to drop like my bottom end wide receiver instead. If you're that bad at running back, you're going to want to hold him for the season. But for this week, it's definitely, to me, Najee and Breida over Akers. Here we go. Zay Flowers or Jerry Jeudy, full PPR. For me, that's easily Zay Flowers. I'm just kind of off Jerry Jeudy right now. It seems like Cortland Sutton's usurping a lot of the work. Running back. Oh, this must be like a really deep league because this is gross. Jerick McKinnon or Keaton Mitchell. I don't even know what Keaton Mitchell potentially could be. So for me, it's Jerick McKinnon. Another quick question, Jerick McKinnon or Latavius Murray? I'm going with Latavius Murray in the year of 2023. I actually have him starting in my in the 18-man guillotine league that I'm in. I still have not managed to get a running back. And the worst part is I blew all my fab to get Justin Jefferson because it's Justin Jefferson. And now I'm basically fully committed to zero running back in that league. But I have Justin Jefferson. I have Keenan Allen. He's on bye this week. But I also have Puka and a couple other dudes. So it's like that. I'm rolling out Latavius Murray and Tank Bigsby in that 18-man guillotine league. So I get it. Latavius Murray or Jerick McKinnon. I think I'm going to slide with Murray, though I do like the potential matchup of like the receiving upside of McKinnon today. If you're in a really desperate situation for the running backs. Cam Akers or Damian Pierce. That's Pierce easily, even though Pierce is underperforming. Again, Cam Akers for me is a season-long hold, but he's not a play this week. Oh, here we go. Chris Olave, just in general. So, I mean, you can probably play him today because Christian Gonzalez is hurt. The Patriots are a little bit banged up. Even though it's been really gross. And by the way, neither Chris Olave nor Michael Thomas has a touchdown on the season. But I would be actively looking to shop Chris Olave because the potential is still there. And when I say the potential, I mean more in the eye of the owner that you're potentially trading to. They are going to see that, okay, Chris Olave is a good young player. He still has a lot of upside on the season. I actually think that upside is capped to a certain degree for as long as Derek Carr is playing under center, especially with Alvin Kamara back. We saw Michael Thomas and Olave were surviving essentially on a low PPR volume, and that's how they were getting their points. And now all of a sudden you've got Alvin Kamara taking 13 catches out of the backfield on these shitty dump offs because Derek Carr doesn't want to throw it downfield. Like, absolutely, that could destroy Chris Olave's season and any value that Michael Thomas has. So Chris Olave being the young stud. Now, this doesn't count for Dynasty, obviously, but for redraft leagues, I would be actively looking to shop Chris Olave for an asset that's equal to or greater than Olave. So, for example, especially if you package him together, you're hurting at running back, and you throw him together with like a Najee Harris, and maybe go try and get a Josh Jacobs or even a Derrick Henry, again, in full redraft. You're not going to get as high as a CMC. Eckler should be on the mend and on the way back. He's going to be a potential trade target. Even if you could pivot straight into I've got a couple offers out where I'm trying to pivot Chris Olave and whatever tight end I have on roster for Travis Kelce, who's technically underperforming, but is still basically the tight end one to own for this year. So that's kind of a situation I might be looking at. Mark Andrews maybe too. If you're in a situation where you have maybe Evan Ingram or Dallas Goedert or like one of these mid tight ends, I would maybe be looking to pivot Olave and one of them into a top tier tight end. So that's another way that you could go with it. But I would be looking to pivot off of Olave because It's not even, it's the way they're running the offense, it's the way the defense, how good the defense is. Just overall, like it feels like this team's going to be in a lot of low scoring matchups. I don't know that the touchdowns are really going to come this year, so you're not getting any upside there. You're really dependent on and hoping on a volume play while he's getting that volume basically siphoned away by Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. So for this year, I would definitely be looking to get rid of Chris Olave. I even have one offer out. I'm trying to get rid of Dak, and who in the same vein as Olave, they just don't need him this year. It's the deep. They're going to front run and lean on the run and the defense. So Dak this year, his best game so far is like 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. So for example, I've got to trade out pending, still waiting on an answer, Dak Prescott and Chris Olave for Brock Purdy and Puka Nacua. I feel like because with Cooper Kupp coming back, maybe the Puka owner is thinking, oh, maybe Puka won't be as good. And then, Brock Purdy is still a game manager, but because of the upside of he could just throw it to McCaffrey and get a couple touchdowns a game between him and Ayuk and Debo when he's healthy and Kittle if he ever decides to show up this year. I like Purdy's upside much more than I like Dak right now. So to me, it's like I'm getting an upgrade potentially at both positions for a full redraft league because of just how heavily involved the Puka will still be for the passing game. Matt Stafford right now is throwing the ball like 50 times. So even if Cooper Kupp comes back and sees 15 targets, Puka could still very easily see 10 to 15 targets right behind him. All right. Oof. Gross tight end decisions. We all got those going on. Dalton Schultz or Dalton Kincaid? Man, wasn't Dalton Kincaid supposed to be like the elite rookie tight end that Sam Laporta has been? It's funny because I took a lot more Laporta than I did Kincaid in the offseason. And it was because I just saw the potential for Laporta to like immediately step into being like the number 2 on the team right behind Amon-Ra. Whereas with Kincaid, it's like obviously Diggs is still going to be ahead of him. Gabe Davis probably still going to be ahead of him. He still has Dawson Knox to compete with. There were just more mouths to feed, it felt like. So I definitely have a lot more Laporta shares than I have Kincaid shares. But between Dalton Schultz and Dalton Kincaid, I mean, Dalton Schultz has been like a nothing burger with Houston, which kind of, I mean, it's a little surprising. I thought he would be a little bit more involved, but Stroud has just looked so good, peppering the wide receivers. Yeah, I feel this feels like a coin flip, but I'm going to go with Kincaid, hoping that maybe the London game gives them a little bit of breakout juice. He is kind of like a low floor option for PPR because he is kind of averaging between 3 and 5 catches. That's a gross one for sure, though. All right. Here we go. Running back decision for an RB2 spot, and running backs are hurting this year. So with Jonathan Taylor returning, Javonte Williams, Zach Moss, or Samaje Perine. You can't play Javonte. Even if he plays, the fact that he was coming off the hip flexor, like he's already been limited all year. This feels like they're just going to limit him even more. With Jonathan Taylor coming back, Zach Moss is basically irrelevant. He's, he might get some backup touches and fall in the end zone, but your upside here in your play is Samaje Perine because I really don't think Javonte Williams is going to be heavily involved today. Again, but it's a miracle that he's been playing at all, but he's been on a very restricted touch limit. And it feels like with the hip flexor, they're not going to take any chances. I would be pretty surprised if he came in and even had his normal 10 to 15 touches that he's been getting. So I would be rolling with Perine here. Plus, Perine has more of like passing upside, I feel like. Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave. This is a perfect example of what I was talking about. It's Garrett Wilson easily. I mean, besides the fact of the matchup of how bad Denver's defense has been, which is funny. If you're on the train of trying to start like Zach Wilson just because of Denver defense, I wouldn't be doing that. For me, it's Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and that's it. I'm not trying to mess around with any other options on this team. And I would be actively trying to sell those players. I made a video earlier in the week saying I would be actively trying to sell those players ahead of this matchup because the potential for the blow up game in the eyes of the manager, again, that you're trading to, gives a little bit more shine and value to Olave and Breece Hall this week. Now, Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall this week. Now, what happens if Denver defense shows up today and they have a bad game? What matchup for the rest of the year are you going to be looking at as a positive game script matchup for Zach Wilson and the Jets? The answer is you won't. And so whatever potential value that Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall have right now in this exact moment before the games happen, you need to pray that they have blow-up games so that you can then trade them immediately after. I would be actively trying to get rid of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall for, again, try to get commensurate value. If I could turn Breece Hall in a piece into James Conner and so what I do with these trades, and this is the classic 2-for-1 is kind of tried and true, but it's also overdone. People, when they get the 2-for-1 in their inbox, they're almost like, I don't want to send out my one good player for your two lesser players. So kind of the way that I've started packaging those is I will send the exact same offer, but I will go look for a bench scrub on their side. So whether that's like a really low end wide receiver that maybe has upside, for the rest of the season, so like a Jalen Hyatt throwaway kind of player, a Jalen Tolbert, or like a third string running back that some people are into, I might throw that random bench player, or even like if my team needs like a backup quarterback or a backup tight end that I know I'm immediately going to drop, anything that kind of makes sense to the other owner of like, it's not just a garbage piece, but like it is like a very small piece that they're trying to acquire. And it's like, because what happens there is like you create a situation where in the 2-for-1, all they see is the two players you're sending and the one player they're losing. And generally speaking, if you're doing a 2-for-1, it's because these two players are going to have less value than this one player for the most part, even if it's perceived because of just performance-wise on the season. So by adding that second player now on this side, it's like, well, this guy sucks so much worse than both of these guys that gap kind of almost in the mind of the person, again, that you're trying to sell to, the gap gets a little bit smaller between that first player and your two players now. Because again, you're taking on such a shitty asset that gap is so huge that for some reason now this gap that was kind of like this for that 2-for-1 has kind of gotten a little bit smaller, a little bit more manageable. And so even if you're going to do like a 3-for-1, I do the same thing now. I don't send my 3 scrubs for their one awesome player, but I will send 3 of my good to average to almost great, but not quite players for their one. So if I'm trying to get Justin Jefferson, let's just put this scenario into existence and into practice. I'm trying to get Justin Jefferson. Okay. On my bench, and I'm just like, I've got a bunch of wide receivers, but they're all kind of like mid guys. So like, let's say I've got Garrett Wilson, and then on my bench somewhere I got Tank Dell. That's a perfect example of I could have picked up Tank Dell at some point during the season. And then maybe like a Marvin Mims type or something. So let's just pretend for a second here. Or, let's go running back. Let's say it's like a Justice Hill type. That I picked up along the way, or a Zach Moss or someone like that. So let's go with Justice Hill. He still feels like a little bit more value. So Garrett Wilson, Tank Dell, and Justice Hill. Let's say I'm sending those 3 players and I'm trying to get Justin Jefferson, for example. Well, I'm going to make sure that I include their absolute 2 worst players that they have on roster. So it's like the backup quarterback that maybe they have Sam Howell and they also happen to have Jacoby Brissett. I'll put Brissett in the deal, or I'll look at their wide receivers. It's like, oh, why are they still hanging on to Robert Woods? And for the running backs, like, oh, they have Melvin Gordon or someone just super gross. Josh Kelly is another one that would be great right now. So like, I'll ask for Justin Jefferson, and then like, or Mike Gesicki, the backup tight end to Hunter Henry. So yeah, that's like a perfect Justin Jefferson, Mike Gesicki, and like Josh Kelly. And then all of a sudden, again, it just changes the idea and perception of the trade of like, okay, I'm massively upgrading and winning these 2 bottom players, even though I'm downgrading from Jefferson to Garrett Wilson. The gap between that downgrade from Jefferson to Wilson is smaller than the massive gap of these other 2 average players compared to these 2 complete scrubs that mean absolutely nothing. So again, by increasing that lower gap, you kind of almost shorten the gap of, because there's no way if I sent you just, Garrett Wilson and those 2 scrubs I mentioned, even though Tank Dell's good, like even if I sent you 3 decent players like that for Justin Jefferson, you're going to laugh at me. But if it's Justin Jefferson and then like 2 complete nobodies, you might still laugh and chuckle, but for a second you're gonna be like, yeah, but those 2 bench guys, I get rid of them. I get 2 decently good upgrades at those spots to kind of take a bit of a downgrade. Chris Olave would be another perfect example in this trade example. Like if I was trying to get Jefferson, I would even put like Garrett Wilson. Like let's just say somehow those are 2 of my picks. It's like a shallower league, like a 10-man league, and I ended up with Olave and Garrett Wilson. I would be trying to put Olave, Garrett Wilson, and like another mid piece, and then ask for Justin Jefferson and 2 complete garbage pieces. When you stack it like that a little bit, it gives the other owner cause for pause. Again, might not complete the trade, but it just, throwing in those throw-ins that actually mean nothing means something only in the perception of when that person now receives the trade again. Now it's 3 for 3. And in their mind, they're like, okay, it's 2 massive upgrades. If you took out like Garrett Wilson and Justin Jefferson, this would be smash accept all day. So if you create that perception in the bottom half of the trade, well, now all of a sudden the gap between Jefferson and that next player, little bit smaller. Again, it's only like a perception thing. This isn't reality, but it's just the way it messes with people's heads from a psychological perspective. So no more 2-for-1s, no more 3-for-1s. Those are past. They're done. They're obvious. Everybody knows about them. So send the same exact trade, but just throw in 2 complete garbage players to make it 3 for 3, or throw in a complete bench scrub to make it 2 for 2. And I'm telling you, the amount of times that that's worked comparatively to just sending 2-for-1s and 3-for-1s, absolute insanity. Again, just creates a whole different perception of the trade in the mind of the person that you're sending the trade to. Getting back to the question that sparked that whole thing, though, Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave, in any format today, it's Garrett Wilson. I'm actively staying away from the Saints and that stupid New England matchup. We'll kind of blow through a couple of these. Tua or Richardson. I'm going with Tua. Tua's kind of been bouncing back and forth. This feels like the bounce forward week where he's going to have the 3-4 touchdowns. And the Giants defense hasn't been that good, which is surprising. I thought they would be better. I thought that whole team would be a lot better. So that's kind of something I've been wrong about this year, is just how much the Giants have sucked. I didn't think they were going to be like some elite crazy team, but I thought they would be at least like mid. Here we go. Flex option. Ayuk, Puka, or Collins. Nico Collins. Wow. I mean, this is like you're spoiled for choice here. How are all three of these guys not in your lineup? Like, and it's because Cooper Kupp's coming back, so I get it. For me, it's Ayuk. I mean, between those three, it's obviously Brandon Ayuk. But again, that's like a super nice problem to have. If I could have all three of them in my life, you better have like Justin Jefferson and like someone else dope. Like, I don't even know how you would have enough people to be starting over all three of these guys. Like, I'm struggling to think of besides like just the elite of the elites. Like, how would you have been able to draft like Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown? I guess maybe I would be playing Devonta Smith over these, like Stephon Diggs, Tyreek. It's like the elite of the elite that I would be starting over these guys. Even like if you told me today Calvin Ridley or Brandon Ayuk, I think I would play it safe and go with Ayuk. Especially with Cowboys, the defensive backs especially are beat up. Micah Parsons now a little bit injured, so that Dallas defense isn't quite as vaunted as it was at the beginning of the year. Like Olave, Garrett Wilson, I'd be starting all three of those guys over them. Devontae Adams even is questionable. And you're going to have to wait for the Monday game. So if you have Devontae Adams in your lineup, wouldn't it make – if I had those three options – so if you're a Devontae Adams owner and you're also got Ayuk, Puka, and Nico Collins on your bench, that's a situation where honestly, even though Devontae is elite, I would maybe put him on my bench for this week, just kind of, see how he's going to play through the injury. He played through it and was still like a PPR option and decent enough last week. But again, when you're in the moment, it's like the adrenaline gets you through, and then the week off almost hurts you in a sense because like the pain management and tolerance has time to like set in so that you're actually having to fight through that. And then also, who are we going to see at quarterback? Is it going to be Jimmy G, or are we going back to Aiden O'Connell? Who knows? It's a Monday game. The Packers defense has been tough. If I was like, I have Devontae and I also have Ayuk, Puka, and Nico, like I'm just going to put Devontae on my bench. I'm not going to sweat it out until Monday night and hope that he plays, and then also hope that he's good. So you'd have to really have some elite options. Let's see. Romeo Dobbs or Tank Dell. So that's an interesting one. This feels like it could be a Tank Dell bounce back week because it kind of has been flip-flopping between him and Nico Collins. So this is a situation where it's team dependent. If I'm 4-0 and I'm just looking to, keep on keeping on, I'm facing a lower seeded team, not too worried about how they're going to score on me, I'm going to go with the safe floor play in my mind of Romeo Dobbs. Whereas if I'm like one of these lower end teams and I'm like trying to, turn things around, especially if I'm facing a high-end, higher seed team that is projected to score a lot, I'm going to take the shot on Tank Dell because Tank has the explosive upside in my mind that Dobbs does not have. Mixon or Kyron Williams. That one is really a toss-up. Kyron Williams did get nicked up, though, so just keep an eye on that. With Cooper Kupp coming back, they could just end up going super heavy pass. I think I'm going to go with Joe Mixon as a floor play. It feels like the Bengals are going to lean on him to get through the Cardinals. So I think this could be a big Joe Mixon week, but I thought that last week too, so I'm not 100% sure. Between him and Kyron, though, and the Rams – who are they facing? Yeah, the Rams got the Eagles. You can pass on the Eagles, but you can't really run on them. Kyron's more gonna get involved probably in the pass game, but again, Cooper Kupp coming back limits that upside. So for me, I'm going with Mixon by not a lot. Wow. Brees Hall versus Denver, Tony Pollard versus San Fran. And this is overwhelmingly in the favor of Brees Hall because a lot of these are poll questions. I am in complete disagreement. I'm 100% going with Tony Pollard over Brees Hall. I understand the matchup. I get it. Just because Denver has been getting their asses kicked by every other NFL team doesn't mean the Jets are just going to walk in and do the same thing. It doesn't always work like that. Zach Wilson is not the type of quarterback that is going to necessarily take advantage of play action or anything. So it allows teams to stack the box more. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm going with Tony Pollard. Like, I'm taking the volume and also just the potential of that matchup to be more of an actual shootout. Like, as bad as Denver's defense has been, it's like this is very much with Denver versus the Jets. A movable object meets, this is movable object meets resistible force of like really bad defense meets really bad offense. It doesn't always work out to where the bad offense just suddenly turns great. A lot of times, actually, it just turns into a really gross, low-scoring defensive matchup on both sides. That's kind of what I'm afraid of for this Broncos matchup. So I'm going with Tony Pollard pretty easily. I'm going to answer a couple more of these, and then I'm going to bounce out early. We got nobody in the comments. Yeah, I'm going to bounce early today, so we'll cut this at 45 minutes today. So I'll do another 8, hammer out some more questions. Explosive day today.
Shots, explosives.
All right. Aaron Jones or Damian Pierce? I don't want to wait for Aaron Jones all the way till Monday. And even though he was active last week, he wasn't really involved. If I really need the upside, so again, situationally, if I'm 0-4 and I'm facing a higher seed team, I'm just looking to get a win at that point, then I'm throwing out Aaron Jones because he definitely has the upside. But if it's the reverse, I just am looking for the safe floor play, then it's Damian Pierce. Which defense this week? 49ers, Colts, or Texans? Still the 49ers. They're just the best, and you're going to hope. And Dak's been pretty clean this year in terms of limiting turnovers. The only one he had was late against the Cardinals. And that turned into like a whole weird Twitter argument of like they were down 2 scores with 3 minutes left, and they're like against the Cardinals, and he throws that interception. I called it a game-ending interception. They're like, the game was over way before that. They had no chance to come back against the Cardinals. I'm like, what the fuck? I've watched Patrick Mahomes come back with like 15 seconds left on the fucking clock. I've seen Aaron Rodgers do this a million times. I've seen other Jamoke quarterbacks make crazy comebacks. Cowboys fans are acting like if they're down 2 scores with 3 minutes left, it's just absolutely impossible. They had never had a chance. No, it was a game-ending interception. They had a chance to win. If he scores there, they punt the ball, and defense forces a turnover, which I get they were getting shellacked that day. But when it comes down to crunch time, defense is getting shellacked all day, and they're like, oh, we just got to bow up for this this one series, like get a 3 and out to win the game kind of thing. Like, yeah, sometimes defenses respond in that moment. Crazy how that works. So yeah, I would be actively avoiding the Cowboys, but on offense. But Dak, like I say, he's been pretty clean with it. But this feels like the type of game where he's going to have to throw more and might throw a couple interceptions. So roll with the Niners, I guess. It is close, though. I like the Colts. Here we go. Nasty boy question. Tyjae Spears or Kenny Gainwell? So full PPR. All the other running backs are either injured or on bye week. And everyone is saying Spears. Mr. Tyjae snap percentage Spears hasn't done a goddamn thing. Had a whole 8 touches for 9 yards. Yeah. But at the same time, Kenny Gainwell hasn't been like crazy involved. It's been all DeAndre stuff. I'm going with Kenny Gainwell though, because it just feels like that could end up being more of a high scoring matchup, and the potential of Gainwell as the backup to get more points than Tyjae Spears as the backup. I just see Gainwell as having more upside. So I would actually go with Gainwell there. I'm very much often in like the minority where it's like, again, immediately after that question was posted, 3 people went Spears, and I'm like, nah, Gainwell. Survivor pool question: Miami or Detroit? Who's the more guaranteed win? For me, it's Detroit because they're probably rolling out Bryce Young again. DeAndre Swift versus Kyron Williams. That's DeAndre Swift all day. Pick 2: Mostert, Mixon, or Tank Dell for the flex. I'm going with Mostert and Mixon if I need the floor. But if I want the upside, again, I'm facing the 4-0 team and I'm trying to overcome. I'm actually going with Mostert and Dell in that situation. Dell very much could have nothing, and he could have everything. Feels like he could have 2 for 150 and a touch, and he could have 0. So that's kind of the problem. Jaleel McLaughlin or Javonte Williams, who will have more points? Jaleel. I don't even know if Javonte plays today. Even if he does, it's going to be on a limited snap count, and that snap count could be even more limited than the limited snap count he's been playing on all year. Jacoby Myers or Chris Olave. That's how bad it is for Olave this week. In that situation, I'm going with Jacoby Myers, which is gross. It could end up being Chris Olave. Patriots are banged up, but I'm still going with Jacoby Myers because there's a potential that Devontae is also banged up and that he becomes the primary target for that game. Oh my God, here we go. Tight end advice. Start. This is how bad it's been a year for Kyle Pitts. Poor Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, Dalton Schultz, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, or Hayden Hurst, or Noah Gray. They're just listing every tight end that's on waivers. You start Kyle Pitts. If you drafted Kyle Pitts, you start Kyle Pitts because the game that he goes off on your bench, you're going to hate yourself. This could easily be that game. I'm going with Kyle Pitts. It's gross, but I'm not starting. Look, if I drafted Kyle Pitts, I'm not starting the likes of Dalton Schultz and Hayden Hurst over him. And I got to see the breakout from Dalton Kincaid. So for me, it's as terrible as it's been for Atlanta and for Kyle Pitts. I'm going with Kyle Pitts. Again, in like the gross off of it's Kyle Pitts, Dalton Schultz, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Hayden Hurst, Noah Gray. Yeah, Kyle Pitts. All right, let's get like 2 or 3 more, and then I'm out of here. Half point PPR: Pollard, Henry, Kyron Williams. Start 1. Oh, you must have good running backs if you only got to start one of them. I would go with Pollard. Yeah. It's funny because I was very much not on the Pollard train at all. I even had him as a bust coming into the year, but if Dallas is going to compete in this game, it's going to be because Tony Pollard has a good game. Feels like it could be the Tony Pollard versus CMC battle. I want in on that, so I'm going with Pollard. Breece Hall versus Pollard. Pollard. Would you trade Joe Burrow for Kyler Murray and Najee Harris? Oof, that's how bad Joe Burrow's been. Hell no, I wouldn't do that. even in a dynasty, and someone was like, in a dynasty league, maybe. No, even in a dynasty league, I'm not trading Joe Burrow. That's insane. He's hurt and he's struggling through it. The whole team is struggling. He will have better days, better years. No way. That's terrible. Najee has been so bad this year because of Matt Canada's offense. And I love the Steelers and Matt Canada. I cannot endorse that in any way, shape, or form. All right, here we go. Last question of the day. I'm going to scroll here. I want a good one. Hold on. We'll jump on the actual site real fast. I just want to see if I missed any really good questions. Here we go. Rashee Rice or Tutu Atwell, getting into a little bit of deeper stuff. For me, it's Rashee Rice. I'm taking the upside potential in that high-scoring Minnesota matchup. And it's actually Tutu that I see his role being reduced, unfortunately, by the return of Cooper Kupp as opposed to Puka. Out of Tony Pollard, Breece Hall, James Cook, and DeAndre Swift, which player do I sit? Oh, wow. It's actually Breece Hall, which is crazy. I know the matchups there with Denver, but I'm going with the talent of Pollard, Cook, and Swift over just pure matchup of Breece Hall in Denver. That feels like it could be the most disappointing. Like everybody just is assuming Breece Hall is going to have 150 yards today. I feel like that one could end up hurting a lot of people. Mark Andrews or Sam Laporta, like it's still Mark Andrews. Jordan Love or Kirk Cousins. Now here's an interesting one. Vikings should be in the high scoring matchup. Jordan Love has scored 20 points basically every week, and he has a good matchup against the Raiders. I would still go with Cousins, though. Cousins has more of the upside to get into the crazy shootout. Stroud, Goff, or Lawrence. I'm riding the hot hand. I'm going with Stroud. I do really like Trevor Lawrence today, but I'm going with Stroud. I feel like it's gonna be close. Bills defense good, but I also feel like that could end up into a big shootout in London. All right, last question of the day. Actual last question of the day. I already said that a couple times. This is the actual last one. Oh, here we go. I love this. This is a perfect question. Justin Herbert on the bye week, which I have in many, many leagues. Daniel Jones as the backup, which I had in several leagues. And I dropped Daniel Jones a hot minute ago. I moved on earlier in the season when I saw what the potential floor was for the Giants. I was like immediately searching for a better backup. And in most of my leagues, I ended up with Jordan Love, who I got off waivers in place of Danny Dimes. So he's my backup / starter in a lot of leagues now. But so the list here for the other options: Dobbs, Zach Wilson, Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Ryan Tannehill. That's basically it. And also, just to note, this is a 4-point passing touchdown league. So actually, there's upside for the rushing touchdowns. Yeah, I'm still going with Matt Stafford. The potential for the shootout there in Philly, I think that could end up in being one of the highest scoring games of the week. The way that you beat Philly is through the air. The front seven is killer, but the defensive backs have definitely struggled. They can definitely be had. The offense on the flip side for the Eagles will definitely push the Rams. That could end up into a 60 burger very easily. So for me, the upside is 100%. I'm going with Stafford. And I actually have Stafford in a lot of leagues. So definitely Matt Stafford over Danny Dimes. In fact, Stafford's going to be like one of my highest streaming, he would be one of my highest rated streaming quarterbacks on the day. So if you need a quarterback and Stafford's out there, he's the guy today, I feel like. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Ended up going almost as long, but we're going to wrap 10 minutes early just so I can relax. Fuck off. So if you've been jumping in and out of the live stream, super appreciate you. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I will announce the schedule next week's going to be a little bit hectic because I'm actually getting married. Yeah, Friday, October 13th. Boom, Friday the 13th. My wife is like a massive horror fan. I've always been a big horror fan, so we did pick it on purpose. But yeah, I'm getting married next week, so I'm going to be off taking a full hiatus. However, I'm not going to leave y'all in the lurch. Tomorrow is Canadian Thanksgiving, so I got the day off. I'll be pre-recording all my shit for the week. So tomorrow I'm going to be doing Monday Mayhem. I'm going to be doing Thursday Thriller. I will be doing a Wild Card Wednesday as well. All of those are pre-recorded anyways. So, and we have a really good one coming out this week. So make sure you tune in for that. And the only thing that's going to be on actual hiatus is this Sunday live stream. We will not be here next week, sadly. I've been having fun with these, trying to be a little more interactive and involved. It's funny because like when I started this, I was like, I'm never doing live streams. Fucking live streams are hard to schedule, especially with other people, and like it's big pain. They glitch a lot of times too. There's like always more problems with it, but I really enjoy doing these, so I'm gonna keep these going for the rest of the year. But because I'm getting married, because it's gonna be in my hometown, and because that's an 11-hour car trip, I'm gonna be in the car all Sunday. So I won't be doing a live stream next week. We will be on official full hiatus, but we will be back with you the week after. And again, I'll still be doing all my weekly episodes to keep you in the loop and on the edge of winning your fantasy championships. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Catch you all on the flip side.
He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man. Here comes